evening to all of you. And as every day, today we are with a new distinguished guest here, and she's Gunjan Goela, a lady from the food industry. She's a chef, and let's know more about her from herself. So let's welcome Gunjan Goela.
Hi, Madhuri.
Hi, a very good evening to you. Welcome.
All the viewers. Thank you so much for giving me this platform. Uh,
Luxury.co, where luxury meets Gunjan Goela, who's a food consultant, a chef, philosopher, and also into modern traditional. She's also known as a modern traditionalist. So I think let's know more about her from herself. So Gunjan, like today is going to be a lot about talking about food and more. So would like to know, your journey and your story. How did you get into being a chef? And is it like more men oriented? Though we know that women are better at cooking, and the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. But then there are very many men chefs as well who are doing exceptionally good in the industry. So would love to know your journey and your story as a chef, as a food consultant. How did it happen? When did it happen? So please tell us all about it. Looking forward to hearing it.
okay. Okay, Madhuri. First, let me thank you. And that's kind of you to have invited me and making me a part of your journey as well. Well, my journey started when I was a kid and I was barely 5 years. I had a kind of a, you can say, a knack for cooking or making combinations with the food. So, but that was too young. So, what I would usually do, add some spicing to the already cooked food. So that was only for myself. Like for example, my mother would cook a dish, so I'll add something on my own, which would become more interesting. So my family found this that there is some gene in her that is inbuilt, and she has a knack, and she has a knack to play with food. Basically, that was playing with food. So, we had a joint family. To be very honest, so let me start my point from here. We had a joint family, and I would see my mother, my grandmother. I was raised in my nanny's house, so my mommies and my mossies and everybody cooking together, and they had some contribution in the food for all the meals that we had from morning till night. So I was fortunate enough to understand the psyche of a cook and a mind of a cook. How would they behave in a kitchen? Just to tell you a small example, for example, my mother would enter. She was very fetish about washing your hands before entering the kitchen, washing your hands and feet. So, I learned this by naturally that I'm supposed to wash my hands each time that I enter the kitchen. Like this, I remember my grandmother making a vegetable out of the pea pods. You know what, you get peas and they would be wasted in winters, and of course not wasted, they would be given to the cows and to the buffaloes. But then I realized my nani peeling off the little skin that the pod had, and she would cut into a very fine strands that would become like same ki sabzi. So I realized that something could be created from nothing. That was a waste. So I said, why can't I create something which is already cooked and which is already there? So I started mixing two vegetables. I started mixing one masala into another masala, and food became very interesting. So by the time I grew up, I realized that I had a flair for it and I could do it. Mixing things was one art which Indian food always had. Like, for example, when you have curry, you have chawal, and you have papad. So I said, why don't I mix the char ka masala into the curry while being served rather than being served in a small portion otherwise? So like this, the interest grew, and I was fortunate. My parents supported me, and then they sent me to a cooking school at that time in 1971. I was probably the youngest child in that cookery class, and the lady was Mrs. Preetham Oberoi. She was one pillar of Delhi to teach cooking. So, and one was Mrs. Premala Lal, and other was Preetham Oberoi. So people would die to join her course, and when my mother took me her. She said, I can't take, she's a kid. So my mother said, try her out. So she couldn't believe that I could cook something at the age of 13. And it came out very well. She was very happy, and she said, I'll be very proud of you throughout. So things like this got infused to me at a very early stage. But here I like to add, people who would like to be a good chef or who want to be a good chef, age does not matter. It can be at any part of life, at any juncture of life, because this is about the passion. This comes out from you, it's more of a passion. So you can be a chef. Everybody is a chef in their own right.
So it's been wonderful and amazing, I believe, your journey, and I think you had it from the very beginning, and it just got a better shape after getting proper coaching into this. And also, you learned a lot from within the family, because you are more into vegetarian cooking and Marwadi food, which we are going to come to that topic as well. And so, you enjoyed mixing and all. So it's all like a God gift, I think, which you have it from the beginning, and it just gets better and developed over the period of time. And a very good message to the audience that there is no age for learning anything, and something like cooking, which is like for women, it comes very naturally. So you can be a chef at any age, is what Gunjan is trying to tell the audience, I believe. And so, Gunjan, you're also known as a philosopher. If you can tell me something about you as a philosopher.
Madhvi, I did a graduation in philosophy honors. Besides that, I remember as a kid, we were asked to read Gita and हमें कंठस्थ करने थे श्लोक. My mother would insist that all of us must know what Gita is and what is the essence of Gita. So, probably again this was inbuilt into me. Then when I got into cooking as profession, and I started working under different banners. For example, ITC was one of the greatest and the longest banner I worked for. Then I realized it's so important to have a philosophy of anything. Like you have a philosophy in life, you should have a philosophy of food. Well, Ayurveda is the foundation of Indian gastronomy, and there are certain diktats that you follow. For example, when you are eating, you're not supposed to talk. The reason behind that is you're supposed to focus. You're focusing your body and your mind and your soul onto that food to draw the maximum energy and to draw the maximum benefits from that food to have in your body and to have it in your system. So these are the philosophies of life. For example, I tell you, washing your hands before you enter the kitchen. Now this is, a hygiene. So these are the few diktats for the kitchen, for your food. So which can be a philosophy of your way. And the philosophy you should follow in your daily practice. Now another point, like people talk now, for that matter, even Sadhguru would say that if when you eat, you are meditating. So you will only meditate when you have your full focus and your full attention, and you put yourself, you connect with that food like a soul, like a body, mind and soul. So this is a philosophy. So this has to be a very natural way of living it. And I think all of us should live with this philosophy, because what we have to draw is, suppose you're having dal and chawal. Now the idea behind that is to draw the maximum nutrients from that dal chawal into your body, into your gut for your working. And everybody is so conscious about their weight. So this is the way you can, जैसे कहते हैं ना, थोड़े से बहुत कुछ. This is the way you should connect with food. You should worship food. If you remember in our Indian philosophy, even in our mandirs and even in our olden times, my mother used to pray before eating the food that, you should thank God, you should connect to God and say, that you've been given this time and you're lucky to have such a good meal. This is a philosophy of food, So I think one must teach the children how important it is to have that morsel of food and be grateful, show your gratitude.
Very nice. And since you talked about Ayurveda, and as you said, there is a connection of philosophy with food, and I know you've done commendable work not only in India, our country, but internationally as well, because you were involved by the Italian government to be a speaker on principle of Ayurveda for 6 years. If you can share some of your principles of Ayurveda that you shared over there in Italy, any you know.
If, firstly, before you understand food and Ayurveda, it is very important to understand the composition of your body. So the three major compositions are Vata, Pitta, Kapha. Vata is the gastric, Pitta is the bile, and Kapha is the phlegm. So the body is made up from these three elements. So your body would fall in one of the segments or the combination of these two or three or many. So you have to understand under which category does your body fall into, and then Ayurveda has prescribed certain meal, certain food in order to combat that issue. For example, bile is predominant in my body, so I should eat food that does not produces more bile, so that that food is a comfort to me rather than an issue. Sometimes when you eat food, for example, people say if you have high protein like chana or rajma, they are gas forming, which is very true. See, protein is high fiber, and protein is not easily digestible. So if you have these kind of food at night, naturally your stomach has to strain more. It has to it has to grind that food in order to it to be digestible. So that is why these foods are avoided. Now suppose somebody has got gastric even during the daytime, he should avoid, by nature he should avoid anything that forms more gas. So these are the things that you have to understand and follow, and then make your food in accordance to the principles of Ayurveda. Now, if you understand what does Ayurveda means, Ayur means life, and Ayur means life. Ved means the science of life. So, if you have an understanding between Ayurveda and yourself, you are only improving the quality of your life and the lifespan in which you are living as a more comfortable and a more happier person that you are. So it's very important to understand the basic principles of Ayurveda, if not detailed, because of course it's a subject on its own which people take years to read and understand. But if you understand the fundamentals of Ayurveda, your life will be much more simplified. You will know what to eat. For example, when people rush to a dietitian, that we don't know what shall we eat or what is good for our body. I think you are the best master of your own body, because your body speaks to you. You have to listen to that body, and you have to be self-aware. These are the small little things that you keep noting about your. Am I audible?
Yeah. So, very informative, I must say, and you make our country proud, not only nationally but internationally, because I know that you attended workshop on demonstrating Indian food in Turin at Slow Food Congress with an audience of 1,500 people. President Terra Madrid 2016 in Turin, Italy, and served 300 people to sell food, besides holding multiple demonstrations on Indian food. So I would like to know from you, Gunjan, that how and when did you decide to bring back to the tables the taste of ancient Indian cuisine? When international cuisine started ruling the menu cards at most hotels, restaurants in India, and you decided to bring back to the table the taste of ancient Indian cuisine.
Madhvi, I started my venture in 1998. Where I was in a get together when the Delhi Tourism MD happened to be there. We were just talking very lightly, and I said, people talk about Punjabi cuisine, we talk about Kashmiri food, we talk about various cuisine, but no one has ever spoken about Delhi food. So why don't we start this project as Delhi Ka Khana? He really liked the idea. He jumped on it, and then we started this journey from Delhi Haat in 1999 as Delhi Ka Khana. It was a great hit when I had invited and I had let all the vendors from Old Delhi street food to come and showcase their food in a South Delhi place. So that was their first time. Trust me, I literally had to beg them that please come, and in case you're not able to sell your product, I'll pay you whatever you want, but do participate for the South Delhi people to know what is the real food of Old Delhi. Because Delhi ka khana converted into chola bhatura and pav bhaji and chow mein, but that was not the case. I wanted to show them the real Delhi cuisine. Well, then it so happened, one followed the other. I got a chance to work with ITC hotels, and I started this concept of Delhi street food in their restaurants and the coffee shops. That was the first time they ever served chaat in a 5-star hotel. And people were more comfortable eating it because they said, we love to have the street food, but we are not very confident about the hygiene. We are not very sure whether we should eat or we should get our guests and our children there. So, it gradually picked up, and I then had a chance to work with all the properties in India and abroad to showcase the Delhi cuisine. So that's how the journey started, and it's there.
Yeah, I know. I think Delhi Haat had a turnover of about 50,000 people attending your show, and you have been consulted with ITC Hotel for Delhi 6 and for Marwari cuisine, which is my favorite as well. I'm a vegetarian and I love Marwari food. And it's been taken globally. So if you can name some of the restaurants that you helped in promoting and banqueting that you handled, being responsible for their opening.
Well, the first property I opened in Delhi was Sheraton, that is in Sake. That is with ITC. So I did the coffee shop, I did the vegetarian menu. Then it came ITC Shonar in Calcutta, then I opened ITC Grand Chola in Chennai. Then I'm responsible for showcasing all the vegetarian food in the banquet and in the coffee shops. And followed by the weddings and whatever showcases they have, I was responsible. And then in the process, the Italian government came to know about my research, so they invited me. Then I went to Germany. I had a scholarship in America. So that was a very good experience where I went and I worked with the top chefs in America. And they were very keen to know what is the real Indian cuisine. They couldn't believe that the vegetarian food could be so interesting and such a big variety. So there I had to get up and tell them that, mind you, India has the largest variety of vegetables. It's only that you are not getting the real flavor because that's not available in the market. That food got restricted in the homes. So I was meeting a lot of home chefs to come up and showcase their food because that is where the real cooking comes from. What you eat in a hotel is a very standard formula, but now everybody is aware about the regional cuisine. It's getting so popular. So more people are jumping into the wagon, and thankfully we are able to experience a variety of food in the restaurants and in the hotel. So like this, once you get into the circle, people come to you, they ask you to help you, they ask you to, design their menus, to curate the food. So I had a lot of pop-ups in London as well. I did a lot of pop-ups. And Italy, of course, is me by half because of slow food. I've been going to Turin, I've been going to Munich, and I've been going to, Rome was another big center where we sold out our food very fast. We used to put up small kiosk on Indian food. People would queue up. Within half an hour, people would come and they would queue up and they would sell the food. One incident I still remember, I went to Sweden. And they put up a small poster that the Indian vegetarian queen had come. So that was very interesting. They called me a spice girl. And what I did was, I said, look, here you can't sell spices. It's a big question in European countries to have a little spicy food. So we made varieties of biryani, and with each biryani, I gave a different chutney. And whatever spicing that they would, I would say, what is your threshold of this, the red chilies that you could take? And I was quite surprised that they delved into it and they found that very interesting that we had varieties of chutneys that could combine with a biryani. So like this, I realize if people are there to venture, it's just that they're not getting a right place to go and eat and the right kind of food, and there should be someone to talk about the food. Food is you see, food is not just to be eaten. There is a story behind every food, and there is a culture behind it. So one should discuss about that. That what is the real food, and what is the story behind it. For example, if I tell you that chana, everybody is enjoying chanas, but there is a story behind every chane ki recipe. That your mom made like that, somebody else made it in another way. So these are the small little snippets that make the whole story.
Everybody's is very unique also. Everybody's, but everyone will come up different at the same time.
It is made in all homes, but it is that little tadka that makes it interesting, and that makes a story. Oh, my mom cooks it like that, my bhabhi cooks it like that. So it becomes a talking point, and that's how you connect with people. That's why they say food and is history. It is a connection between two cultures. So when I went to Italy, when I traveled the world, I learned so much, and it was a wonderful experience. And I would try to bring their spices and incorporate in my cooking. So that's how you learn, you experiment. And
Yeah, so it becomes more like a fusion cooking then, like you mix in Italian spices or yeah. So was it tough, for the foreigners to accept the vegetarian Marwari food, or they loved it, they relished it, and was it very difficult for you to, put it across to them?
Fortunately, it was a big opening for them. They did not know that India is such a diverse country with so many varieties of vegetarian. Unfortunately, for them, the vegetarian food was makhni dal and paneer. So they said, how come potatoes also have a variety? We thought there's only one way we can have a potato curry. Now, potato is a very universal vegetable, like that you might find kaddu, or what we call sitapal. It is available all over the world. But it's just the way the spicing that you add is very interesting. I still remember that movie where Kangana Ranaut goes Rani or Queen, and she goes to an Italian restaurant and she orders the food, and then she tells the serviceman to please get him some lemon and some more salt, and she adds on to it and makes it her way. So these are the small snippets that the Indian food, where Indian food is discussed, it becomes very popular. Now today's scene, you will be surprised. They know much more than we would know, because they're very keen to know. They're very keen to to experience and to experiment. That's one thing I've learned a lot from them. So when you give them something on their platter, it is they are more than happy to experiment and try that out. So I made gattas, I remember, and they couldn't believe that I could steam, then cut, and then again fry, and then put them into a curry. So that became a story for them, and they were very happy. That's one thing I like about them. They're very open. They welcome things, and they say, yes, we like to try. Rather than, no, we'll have our own way, like some of us do behave. No, I won't eat this because I have dal this way. I won't eat it with anything else, So these are the ways I experienced and I learned. I exchanged so many stories. I learned so many recipes, and I was very happy to serve Indian food. Of course, there were challenges, like I would not get all the ingredients, but whatever available, I would make something. I make something out of that, and it was a great happy experience for me.
Wonderful. So interesting experience with exposure with different countries and globally. What I would wanted to ask you, Gunjan, is that how do you manage, especially the perfect royal fit for royalty, and And how tough is it handling luxury and royal clients, because you happen to have been on board with some royal clients and luxury clients, like high profile weddings. Any names you can, tell which of the weddings, if you've done any of the high profile weddings, celebrity weddings?
Lucky in January we did a wedding for the Maharaja of Jaipur family. So it was not a very big wedding. It was a wedding for about 2,000 people, and we had 3 days to be served. It was very good experience. But see, they're very particular. They have a style, and they know what they want, and they have a style that they want to be followed. And of course, certain recipes are given by them. So it makes things easier for us to understand their psychology, what will be the profile of people. And that was one very good experience we had with the Maharaja of Jaipur. Then we did a small wedding in Udaipur. So, like this, so what happens is once you do a party, you will get 10 more parties because people will there, some of them would like, some may not like, it's both ways. But those who would like to come back to you. So we have done some very big parties. Even through ITC, I got very good leads and I got very good parties to do with. I've done, of course, he's not a royalty, but I've done the wedding for Mr. Mittal, for Mr. Ellen Mittal. Then we've done wedding for Goenka, we've done wedding for Ruiyas, and all the Marwadis in Calcutta we have done. And they've really enjoyed because they know I'm a Bania Marwadi myself, so I understand the nuances of their style of cooking. Otherwise, for somebody else, they would have to relate and they would have to explain. Whereas I am a part of that culture, so they're very comfortable, communicating with me to tell me what do they want exactly. So it becomes more of a big experience.
Right. So definitely they can come to you and relate to you better than any other person, be from the same community. You can exactly offer them what they require for. And I must say that Gunjan was also privileged to cook for our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, along with the presidents and dignitaries of various countries recently in Mumbai for Make in India. So I would love to know your experience with Mr. Narendra Modi and the other dignitaries. I mean, you really make our country proud for sure, and congratulations for such a big, event and celebrations. If you can tell something about it.
Yeah. Thank you, Vati. It just happened that they were looking for a good chef who understands the concept of a real good vegetarian food. So I was one of the lucky ones to be chosen for that event. This was for Make in India in Bombay at Kala Ghoda. So then I started reading, I started understanding, I went to the Prime Minister's office to understand what is his food that he's been eating and what are his preferences. So I had already proposed to, just a small example, to make bajre ki khichdi, and I made this watermelon ki sabzi. And when I went there and I was telling him, they asked me, what is that you're proposing? So I gave them a small menu. In the end it was written bajre ki khichdi. They all jumped at it. They said, this is exactly what he likes, so he would love it. I said, all right, I'm so happy that you've already solved my problem. So when we were cooking, it was one big hell of an experience. We had to be there 2 days earlier because there was so much of security. We were almost scanned from head to toe. We were not allowed to take any cameras. Our phone were taken at the gates because we were not supposed to click any pictures at the venue and during the time the food is going to be served. So, we were shit scared that we could not even come out for anything, and a very tight security. So all went well, and then when the food was eaten, besides the dignitaries and the heads of the various states, there were also the all top, the business heads like the Ambanis, the Tatas, and all were there, and they were part of the food served there. Because of the PM, the entire food was vegetarian, and it was a challenge for some of them because they were hardcore non-vegetarian. So they said, no, it's okay, just to be polite to them. And I got such good compliments after that, they gave us a note that, your food is really appreciated. And the PM personally has wished all of us and thanked you. So that was a very sweet gesture. It really, delighted us and prepped us up for the next event. That's all. But this just shows a gesture of a great personality.
Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, and I'm sure many more coming your way in future as well. So also, Gunjan, you've been a consultant with Galaxo and SmithKline for developing multiple flavors in Horlicks like mocha, raspberry, mint, and many more, and has worked with flavoring and fragrance companies for developing different masalas and flavors for potato chips as well. So, more about like you love mixing flavors and developing these flavors for. We all know about Horlicks, so that comes from you, I believe. What we get these raspberry flavors.
Correct.
Any of your special recipes that you like to offer to the clients while for a destination wedding, and which destination weddings have you done so far? International, not like our country, but internationally.
Okay, the most memorable one would be at Antalya. We'd gone to Turkey. And it was a beautiful place to be in, and what a grand wedding they had done at Palace Stuff. I'm forgetting the name. Well, it just remind me, I'm sorry for that. It was a grand wedding, and what elaborate arrangements and what food. And the best part is I flew 210 chefs from here because it was an event for 7 days. And we had lunch, dinner, breakfast, and a small counter which was there 24/7. Anybody could walk in and could pick up a plate, and if he's feeling hungry, could eat there. And what you had asked me was the destination wedding, Madhvi. Madhvi, were you asking for the destination wedding? Okay, yeah. The other one was at Luxembourg. I did a wedding. That wasn't a very big wedding, but it was a very grand and a very selected crowd had come. And only, they were allowed with the invitation card. And what a beautiful way of inviting people and welcoming them. That's a very typical Indian style. But they had done elaborate arrangements where we carried silver plating thalis from here. Each guest was supposed to sit down and we gave them a sit down service. It was a beautiful experience, and of course it's always very interesting to work with the locals wherever you go. So, you explain the technology. I learned so much from them to understand how could they cut short in making the baturas, for example. We were doing baturas in a deep fryer where the cutlets and the chicken were being fried. So these are the small things, you carry back with you, and then you recollect and you say, oh my God, this is what you had done. So, of course, there were some great weddings. London is a very common destination wedding, so nothing so great. But Luxembourg and Antalya was one of the most memorable weddings I had done. As far as Horlicks and IFFU concerned, and you were telling me, I will see Horlicks is this GlaxoSmithKline company. They were asking me to come up with variations with the basic Horlicks product. So I did chocolate, I did almond, I did raspberry, I did strawberry, and then that was an exercise for me to mix, and again that came in as how you would exactly cook up and how would you give them the right flavor. So these are the few things that came up very well, and then that was acceptable. We had tried, we kept on trying with various things, and then finally what was acceptable came into the market. Unfortunately, North India is not very popular with Horlicks. But if you go down south, you will find everybody having Horlicks. So it was very encouraging for me to get into that. The other thing I did was this IFF. That is the Bush company that makes essence and coloring. So I was asked to make different flavors. So that again is a mixing of combination and permutations of various ingredients put together. So probably God had already infused it love in me as a kid. So it helped me a lot to take it to another level, to make this into a commercial venture. So that was an easy journey for me.
Beautiful. And I think Neha is also asking you to mention her experience with you in Sweden. Probably you also
went to Sweden together. Neha is there. Hi Neha, sorry I didn't see you. Neha and we all had an exchange program through through Flow. We had gone there, so the local contact took me
you've done in the industry from last 25 years almost, I believe now. And is there a specific requirement for destination weddings when you do it outside the country? And what kind of recipes do you offer them? Food. What kind of food do they prefer? Ingredients or something special? I mean, how do you manage it? How do you source it from here? The
Okay. It is a teamwork. You need to utilize their potentials into your work. So what is required there is management, and it's all a teamwork. But of course, basic cooking, which is an important part of cooking, is you need to take with you, because that you can't sit and train them. But the other resources you need to get from there. You need the pots and pans, you need the decoration, you need service. It's a manpower. It's the manpower that matters. What is the strength of your manpower and how you can manage them. So you putting all together is what will make your party. But basic ingredients, things like if it is an Indian wedding and you're having an Indian cuisine, so the basic ingredients you need to carry, or you need to know the right thoughtful guy who will supply you the stuff. So these are the small tips that you need to know and put them together. So probably one table everywhere for everything.
And coordination end of the day, I believe.
Yes.
And yeah. Also, Gunjan, you've been a very familiar face on numerous cook shows across television channels like BBC, TLC, History Channel, NDTV, Good Times, Star TV, ETV, DD, etc. So how has your experience been on these channels, cookery shows? If you can share some experience.
Yeah, it's very interesting that once I was walking in Connaught Place and I was stopping, somebody walks in and says, "Hey, don't you come on TV?" I think, yeah, like, how did you know? Because you were there on TV just yesterday. I was in Tata Sky. So I said, okay, so this is the best part is you don't know when it is shot and when it is going to be telecast. And when people ring you up, hey, you're on TV, it was very interesting initially, but nowadays I'm all over it because it's over the hill and doesn't really create that kind of a kick. But yes, it's a great learning to work with these people because they're so organized, they're so punctual, and they have their scripts ready, they have everything marked up, rather than, when you go and, sorry to say, for some of the Indian channels, you go and wait the whole day, and towards the half day gone, then they said, "Madam, now the shot is ready, please come and shoot." Whereas when you work for these foreign channels, it's so interesting. They have marked out every little detail, and you have the script ready in you, and you just go and shoot with whatever food you have, and you have a cook and show, and it's just done within a day. And yes, I've shot with some of the top chefs of the world, some different stuff. That was very interesting. And we exchange a lot between the chefs there and me and my team. So these are the few interesting points that they also carry back home. And they say, we tried some of your recipes which came out very good. And the exchange goes on. This is how I think, you carry forward the legacy also. So it was nice. I enjoyed working with BBC a lot. Really interesting.
It's a honor for me to host you here today because after being on these channels and you're here at Basics.co, it's really an honor for me. And hope to have a cookery show with you someday. Probably we could plan it sometime in future and it will be very interesting. So just to tell the audience that Gunjan has been North Delhi Tourism to help them promote Delhi cuisine. Vice President, Slow Food Chefs Alliance India, WACS qualified judge for cooking competitions, and governing body member with PhD, has been committee head with Flow Fiki and has held many workshops on cookery and bakery demonstrations. So I think Neha is also asking you to throw some light on slow food movement. Hi Neha, nice to see you, and thank you Srita for such lovely encouraging words and appreciation for Gunjan. So Gunjan, if you can throw some light on slow food movement.
Okay. This movement started in Turin almost now 50 years back by this gentleman called Carlo Petroni. This was a movement against McDonald's burgers and Coke. So the gentleman started saying that, you must have organic food, we must have natural food. My endeavor and my fight with them have been India has always been following a natural and organic food. Tell me how many times did we ever use pesticides? Never. It is just very recently we started using chemicals in our farming. All this time we had, very natural and organic food. We always had cow dung manure. We always had neem ki khali. We would recycle and follow the nature into our food, which is the fundamental of slow food. So India is already a follower of slow food, and India already believed in natural and organic food. So for us, it is not a new philosophy. Yes, for Europeans, for Americans, it's a totally different philosophy. They will cook for one day and eat it till next 7 days. Whereas we have a meal, every meal is cooked fresh. We'll have a fresh breakfast. I still remember my mother making matris in the morning for breakfast, only just enough to be fed for that particular meal. Lunch would be dal chawal and one vegetable, again fresh, and whatever was left, because there were not very many fridges at that time, so nobody would cook the food and keep it in the fridge. Let me just put in one more point here. At that time, even the food was not reheated. It was cooked and served there and then. So the temperature was maintained. You see, there was no contamination in our food. Because once the food is heated and then you bring it to a cooler temperature and again reheat, there is a certain percentage of contamination. There is a certain percentage of the food grade going down. But whereas we had the highest standard of the best quality of food, because the moment the food is served, and we never had so many pressure cookers. It's a very recent philosophy of pressure cookers. So the food was already cooked in the slow steam of cooking. For example, dal, it was in a brass pot, जिसे पतीला बोलते हैं, and it would take 2 to 2.5 hours to cook that dal. So now that is slow cooking. So we already knew what is slow cooking. And once the dal was cooked and it was off the heat, it was meant to be eaten within an hour or within an hour and a half. I know these are points that now those things are coming back. Of course, about 50 years back, there were pressure cookers. Then there came the fridges. Then once the fridges came, so the food was being cooked and kept in the fridge. And of very recent times, the food is cooked for next 10 days and kept in the freezer. And then we would take it out and then eat. And nothing against that, but when we can, when things are possible, why don't we have fresh food? That's the best way. In fact, it's the best, healthiest food one can eat. And what is food? It is the fundamental for your body. So instead of eating those medicine, if you have fresh food, it will be a far better and a healthier way of doing it. Now, one more thing, जिस हमारे पुराने शास्त्रों में लिखा है, जैसा खाए अन्न वैसा रहे मन, या और food can be a medicine and let not medicine be your food. So they all talk about things of food eaten the best form for your body, the healthiest way you can take from the food. So the healthiest food is the fresh food. So, the things which are being pre-cooked and then eaten at later stages is what matters, and these are the fundamentals for creating more issues with the health. So if you are following a slow food, try and have fresh as much as possible. Follow the Ayurveda, you'll be following slow food.
I'm sure it's a very good message for the audience today, and this kind of food is also very scientific. The slow food movement. If you can tell a bit about a modern traditionalist, what is a modern traditionalist? Like you're known as a modern traditionalist as well.
Okay. Modern, I think one should always be modern in thinking. And when you say traditionalist, I would like to, for example, very small example, I would like to cook my food. Till date, I have iron pots. I make most of my vegetables in iron kadhais, lohe ki kadhai, lohe ka tawa, lohe ki pots. Now this is a tradition. I have even brass pots. I cook in brass pots. Now modern, I would love to adapt the technology. I would affect your eyes. Now, we can find a technology where fumes are controlled, but you're cooking on coal. Why, I'll tell you? Because you get a taste, you get a certain flavor. So why should I live on that? Why can't I retain the taste and flavor and keep away from the negative side of it? So you can, you can adapt the modernism in a traditional way. So that's my endeavor have been to going to the villages and talking to the ladies there and telling them that don't give up coke, don't give up food. I'll tell you a small thing. I'll tell you, if you go to Chandni Chowk or if you go to Jama Masjid, till date you find the big halwais cooking on wood logs, and they would cook in big bags. There is a style, there is a way of cooking that food because you get that flavor which remains intact within the day. You know, when the biryani is cooked or the dal is cooked, so the aroma and the flavor that comes out from it being boiled remains within the dal. And if you're cooking in a bigger, wider pot, they will escape. So these are the small little things. If you keep them intact, you can get a flavorful and a healthier food. So my movement has been to take the modern technology into a traditional style.
Lovely. Awesome. And as you know, Gunjan, the program is about madriesluxury.co. I would like to know the definition of luxury according to you.
You know, food is honest. You need it 4 times a day. But you can make it into a luxury experience. Now that experience is what can be a luxury. खाना तो आपका दाल चावल सब्जी रहेगा, but that experience you can make it more enhanced, make it into luxurious and a more memorable one. What is luxury? Something that you take it as the lingering thoughts for times to come. You want to get back there and you want to enjoy. You savor the luxury. You savor every moment of the luxury that you are into. For example, sauna was a luxury some time back. Now it's a common thing even the household has. But if the experience is that what matters, so food can be a very good luxury for people to remember, for them to come back to you again and give them a good experience along with the food. And it will be the top line luxury which everybody would need and they will come back here again and again.
I must say. And if you can give some tips to the audience on weight control, because most of us are very conscious about weight and want to look slim and thin, but how do you manage, weight control with food?
Okay, so the first important part is to understand your body. It's very important to know what body do you have. By that I don't mean you know your measurements or just hear your body out. There are times when you say, I just feel like having a glass of Nibu Pani. Now that's an indication from your body to you to have a vitamin C and some sugar. If you're wanting to have Meecha Nibu Pani, so try and understand what the mind and what the body is wanting. At the same time, don't overindulge. That's the most important factor. Make this as a regime. Make food as a regime. And if you focused on it, you will never go out of control. Of course, people say don't have fried, but you should have a balanced diet. To have a balanced body, you should have a balanced diet. Have a little bit of everything. Because mind is a very funny part of your living. आप जिस चीज़ को मना करेंगे माइंड उसी पे भागेगा. When you tell your mind नहीं coke is bad for you, you will get back to the coke. No, coke तो पीनी है, मीठा तो खाना है. So don't say no to anything. Just try and balance, understand your body. You can meet a dietitian, you can meet a doctor, and I would suggest you try and understand which category does your body fall in. Vata, Pitta, Kapha. And see what is the predominance in your body, and according to that you can find your foods in which category your food falls, which category your body falls. But I would still say don't ever go on a crash diet. Don't ever say no to things. Have a balanced meal. आप अगर diabetic है, have मीठा भी खाइए, but in a right way. And which मीठा? Now don't have a jalebi because to maida, which is not good for diabetes. Then you're having deep fried. Then you're having thick sugar syrup. So understand the food, what you're having. You can maybe have an ice cream, a light ice cream. उसमें मीठा भी है, good for you. So what I mean to say is, please try and understand what category your body falls in, and then decide your food.
Wonderful. And I think we should eat everything but in balance, and also, like, not go for crash diets or something, because then you may be thin but you may not be healthy. So it's also important to be healthy at the same time. And Gunjan, if you can give a message to the audience around COVID, especially how to improve your immunity, because everybody is talking about if your immunity is strong, you will not get COVID. So if you can give us some tips on improving the immunity.
Okay, these are small little basic things that you need to understand. How food is related to COVID. See, when you're having a diet, so you must have certain things that vitamin C is like very important according to me. So if you could plan to have 2 nibus a day, now you could have it as a nibu pani, you could have it in your dal, or you could have it in, maybe anything. You can have a chart out of it. You could have it on your salad. There are various forms. Try to have 1.5 to 2 lemons a day. I have 2 lemons a day, mandatory. One in the morning as a nibu pani, and one I divide throughout the day in dal, sabzi, salad, anything that I like. I sometimes make a chart, whatever. Then another thing I suggest is you must have honey, because these are the things that keeps your respiratory system, your respiratory tract clear. See, what is COVID is that you have to avoid phlegm, you have to avoid coughs. So the moment you have a little cough in yourself, so that's the first stage of developing phlegm in your body. So try and have vitamin C. Amla is the best food, although this is not the time for amla, but in another month and a half to 2 months, by August you will get good Banarsi amlas. So you can make a murabba at home, or you can make amli ka chutney, or you can have amli ka juice, which is the best form of vitamin C and iron both. So iron will give you more blood, more oxygen in your body, and vitamin C will keep away the cold and cough away from you. If you could have some tulsi in your food, just chew 1 or 2 leaves of tulsi, which are early morning food. You can have a little bit of long, or you can make a decoction out of tulsi, long, dalchini, and adrak. That's a very nice way of having a kind of a natural tea that they call it. So these are the few foods, but otherwise the most important part is keep your respiratory tract clear by having kheera, by having nibu, by having oranges. You should have a lot of fruits. Lay a lot of emphasis on fruit. Now, fruit when you eat, be careful that don't cut the fruit and keep it in the fridge. Try and be as close as possible, like for example, watermelon or muskmelon. Banana is very good form of phosphorus, and but the thing is, banana creates phlegm. So जिनका body वात category में आता है, banana should be avoided. So it's very important to know what food you should have under which category. So as I said, to understand that, you read a little bit, you will get to know what body you have. But yes, banana is very good. Mangoes are very good. Have all seasonal fruit. You'll be the safest thing to have is all seasonal. Like these days, ghia, tori, tinda, and they're very good. They're full of water and full of antibodies. So try and have natural food. It will be very good. I suggest have Chyawanprash. Chyawanprash is a very good way of keeping all the balances. So it detoxifies your body and keeps you away from small cough and cold and fever. So try and have your natural products and do you good.
So I must say, and I'm sure the audience would really get huge benefit from listening to you. And we all stay safe and we all stay, healthy.
That, yes.
Yeah. So thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure and honor having you here on the show.
Thank you, Madhuri. Thank you for letting me say my words. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Okay. Okay. Bye-bye.
So, guys, it's been a very interesting talk today with Gunjan Goyla on food, and more. So, I hope you will enjoy it as much as I enjoyed doing the talk show with her. And every day we're coming up with a different celebrity and different distinguished personality. So, let's see who we have tomorrow. Let the suspense be there. And I would like to thank my luxury clients. The show is powered and supported by Padma Shri artist Krishna Kanai ji, Salma Sultan ji, by Sari Sanskriti, Nora from USA, Aisha Khanna, and who's an international designer. Thank you, all my friends, all my viewers, and of course, my luxury clients. Thank you all very much. Have a great evening. Bye bye.